The majority of our pairing, the majority of our suggested pairings tend to be Welcome back to Rewind with bschwitty, because you complete me. Today we're going to be continuing on our week of helping you with your Valentine's Day weekend by teaching you how to pair food with wine so you'll look like a pro for your sweetheart. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying we're not going to encompass every single tiny detail about pairing, and more on that later on why not, but just for the record, these are just going to be some helpful things to get you into the habit of doing pairings for yourself and kind of a jumping off point. But now, since it's Thursday, we're going to be bringing in the Rewind Board 2.0. After some technical errors last week, I think it's now operating within normal parameters. That's concerning. So today, let's pair wines. First and foremost, like I was saying earlier, pairing wines is not an exact science. Everyone's palates are different. What I taste might not be what you taste, even if we're drinking the exact same wine. On top of that, our mouths only taste 5 distinct flavors: sweetness, sourness, saltiness, bitterness, and umami. I feel like I don't have to explain the first 4, but for those of you late to the party about umami, essentially it's a Japanese word which pretty much means savoriness. Think of that robustness you get from soy sauce or like a hearty broth. Now, here are some good starting pairs for you to jump off from. But remember, they're not rigid rules. They're just suggestions, just like the rules in the Pirates of the Caribbean. First, here's an easy one. I like to pair Pinot Noir with a heartier fish like a salmon. Anything on the redder side of fish goes well with a lighter Pinot Noir. And some poultry. Try pairing Cabernet Sauvignon with a nice juicy steak. Those big tannins in the cab are going to be rounded out by that fat. One of my favorite pairings with barbecue is Malbec. Or, in lieu of that, try a Zinfandel. Their fruitiness are going to pair well with any sort of barbecue sauce. With them being more medium to full-bodied, these wines are going to go well with those grilled notes. Try pairing off-dry Rieslings with spicy dishes, especially things like Thai food, Indian food, and as you saw last week, buffalo wings. Syrah goes well with pork products and especially charcuterie. It's a pork and good time. This next tip comes from one of my friends who spent quite some time in Spain doing exactly what I'm about to tell you to do. Pair sparkling wine, like champagne or cava, with potato chips. I know it sounds crazy, but there's something about that salty, potato-y greasiness that just pops against the fizziness and loveliness that champagne or cava provides. Now, obviously, we don't want you to just memorize a bunch of pairing suggestions. We want you to be able to go out into the world and make your own judgments on what to pair with what. So here are some basics. There are 2 types of pairings: congruent pairings and contrasting pairings. Congruent pairings are pairs that have similar flavors and or profiles. The reason why people enjoy pairing red wine with dark chocolate is because that certain red wines have notes of dark chocolate in them. Therefore, the 2 notes together amplify each other and make a congruent pairing. Whereas contrasting pairings work by pairing foods with wines that add something that the dish is missing. Think about our spicy food pairings. The acidity from the white wines aren't commonly found in spicy dishes. Spice is not acid. So the addition of a lighter acidic white combines together with all the flavors that are happening to elevate it to something whole or more complete. The majority of our suggested pairings tend to be complementary pairings because they're easier to match with food than to take the time to specifically figure out what a dish is missing to add and then figure out which puzzle piece of wine fits perfectly into that equation. Contrasting pairings take a lot longer and are much more specific pairings than I can give you with broad strokes. Speaking of broad strokes, here are some more. White wines tend to pair well with fish and chicken, usually the lighter whites. Red wines pair well with heavier meats. The meatier it is, the heavier the wine should be. Dessert wines probably pair best with desserts, which is to say that the wine should be sweeter than whatever you're eating with it. Remember that balance is key. You don't want to pair a super heavy dish with big, bold flavors with a very light wine that has nothing to contribute to the pairing. Fat does a great job of balancing out tannin. As I mentioned before, Cabernet Sauvignon pairs so well with steak because the fat kind of cuts through the heavy tannins that a traditional cab would have. And finally, I just want to say to you out there, remember that rules are made to be broken. None of these are strict rules, so go break them. The best way to learn about pairing wine with food is through trial and error. So now, with all this knowledge that you've just soaked up in the last few minutes, go out there and pair some wine. And that's today's lesson. So, if you have any more questions about wine pairing, drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to guide you, give you tips, other resources on where to go. There's an excellent book over my shoulder from Wine Folly that has a bunch of different pairing suggestions, as well as my personal favorites, which are Perfect Pairings and Daring Pairings by Master Sommelier Evan Goldstein, which is half recipe book, half pairing book. You can find those wherever books are booked. That's it for me today on Rewind. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, which is my primary home, at rewindshow.com. We'll take you there to my channel anytime you want. Please consider sharing, commenting, liking, subscribing, and ringing the bell to let you know when I have new episodes out. If you don't know already, for the month of February, we're doing 5 episodes a week, Monday through Friday. It's not tolling on my psyche at all. And as always, you can find us on Instagram at Rewind Show, which is where I post these edited down to 10 minutes for IGTV if it's gone longer than that on the YouTube channel. Seriously, it's a lot of editing. And find me on Twitter at bschwitty. Anyway, this has been Rewind. My name is bschwitty. Good luck out there pairing your wines. I'll catch you next time.